Okay, Kakidameshi. I've had a question in relation to Miyagi Chojun. Rumors that he was involved in Kakidameshi. What does that look like? Kakidameshi is a tricky one. You see it spoken about quite a lot in the old books, how people would engage in these challenge matches in the district of Suji, which was known to be the drinking area, the red light district. To my knowledge, it still is in Okinawa. It's not massively overt, but from what I gather, it is still where you go for that sort of thing. In the past, it was frequented by the drunks, the troublemakers, the ruffians, and by practitioners who kind of wanted to test themselves. Now, when we look at Kakidameshi, there's next to zero information with regard to what it actually looked like. You know, what did these challenge matches look like? What did it entail? What were the rules? The only thing really we find is that there was a tradition of having a second, having kind of like a mediator who would step in to stop it if anyone was cheating or if it got too rough or whatever, which would suggest the presence of some sort of rules around it, right? I asked Hokama Sensei about it, and he said Kakidemeshi used to be done with belts, with the obi. So you almost like a tug of war. You'd hold the end of it each, and you'd be maybe 10 foot away from each other, and you gradually reel the other person in until you ended up in close range. At which time, then you would then use your hands. He said they stopped using the belts because what people were doing was using the ends to kind of whip the end of the belt and getting people in the eye and stuff like that. That was then deemed cheating. So what they did was got rid of the belts and they started using the bow, the 6 foot staff. And you can see this kind of corroborated a little bit by Nagamine Shoshin in his book Tales of Okinawa's Great Masters, where he talks about the tradition of chikara bow, so strength bow. You both hold the end of the bow and you'd kind of unbalance each other and you kind of tested each other's stances, almost a form of tegumi, this sort of like grappling thing, but you're both holding the stick. And again, you'd pull the person in, and once you ended up in kind of like touching range, well, now you'd cross the forearms, and then that would become what we probably now know as kakie. Aside from that, I haven't really been able to find any real information as to what these bouts look like, what were the rules, what could you do, what constituted a win, all this kind of thing. And we can't get this Kakidameshi tradition mixed up with fighting because the other thing that happened in Suji was ambushes. This we do find a lot more information about, whereby a person wanting to make a name for himself and build a reputation would wait outside the bar, hide by the side of the road and wait for the drunken, person of stand-in who had a good reputation as a fighter or a practitioner. You'd wait in the bushes, and then when they came past, you'd jump them and beat them up while they were drunk. Or you'd get a group of you together and you'd attack them. A teacher of a friend of mine, his name escapes me now. I want to say Akima Sensei, but if it comes back to me, I'll let you know. But he was of the Matayoshi tradition, a weapons master. And he got ambushed and hit with a bike chain across his face. So he had this big scar from a bike chain. We have the tales of Motobu Choki, whereby his scar came from someone gouging a stone into his face during a challenge match. I spoke with Kinjo Sekichi, who was a student of Miyagi Chojun, and he told me that Miyagi Chojun had a challenge match with Motobu and that he hospitalized Motobu. Again, there's other stories about Miyagi meeting with Motobu and them having some sort of bout, but the stories as to what that looked like are very, very different. Some people describe Motobu grabbing Miyagi by the wrist, at which point Miyagi hits him in the groin with either a kick or a punch and drops him. Other stories relate to Miyagi grabbing him by the temples in like an eagle claw position. And this was the one that was relayed to me by Kinjo Sensei. He said he grabbed him like this and hospitalized him from it. He was really trying to emphasize the strength of Miyagi's grip. I have some issues with that one, believing it. Because the other thing, the tradition of storytelling in Okinawa, the truth ain't really that important. It's kind of secondary behind a good story. So a lot of this stuff gets really romanticized and kind of elevated to something far beyond what it was. And in terms of Kakidameshi, we kind of probably have a picture in our minds of what we think it would have looked like, and it's probably vastly different to what it actually was. Case in point, when we look at some of the Chinese martial arts, so I was quite involved in a period with Five Ancestors Fist and some of the Southern Mantis, and challenge matches were really frequent. I was present at a few of these challenge matches. I engaged in a few of them myself, and it's very easy to big yourself up and say, "Oh yeah, I had a challenge match against this guy from another school and I destroyed him." One of my teachers in Five Ancestors was very fond of saying this. "Oh, so and so came and I destroyed him." But then when you see footage, so there is some footage of some of these challenge matches that are on YouTube, and you can find them. More often than not, it's kind of like they're doing arm banging, they're doing kote and it's like, okay, that guy tapped out, he couldn't continue, so that constituted the win in that case. Or there'd be kake type drills, kake type games, and if you won that game, then you won that challenge. And there was almost a progression of challenges. So you would maybe start with arm banging. Okay, this guy taps out, but he's not finished. He wants to go again. Okay, well now we'll do this particular push hands thing. I beat him again. Okay, he's still not finished. He wants to go. So there's this elevation of things whereby it ends with, just okay, well let's just fight. And it really gets to that, because if you've beaten at all this other thing, all these other stages, you've already defeated them. They usually don't want to continue to like the final stage of, well, let's just fight. They know the pecking order by then. And I wonder if it was similar in Okinawa, especially around Naha, where there was this massive interplay between Okinawa and China. So some of these traditions crept through, whereby when we picture challenge match, we think, oh, they had a fight. But more often than not, it might have just been they did some arm banging or something like that. So it's a tricky one. Like everything with karate, when we look at history, it's so murky, it's so romanticized that there's sketchy information at best on anything. Hey, look, we don't even know what Kanryo Higona taught. We don't even know what was added to the system from Miyagi. And we're talking less than 100 years ago. We have no idea where this art that we practice really came from. And that's Okinawan Karate as a whole, unfortunately. We're left with ultimately a collection of movements and templates that we don't really know the application for. A lot of the applications that were passed on further down the line, Kihon Bunkai sort of thing, is a reverse engineering process whereby, it kind of looks like that, and we'll do everything against a damn chest punch or a wrist grab to make things nice and easy for us. So it's a real tricky one, and I try not to, having spent so much time going to the ins and outs of the history and the culture and rituals and the religion and everything, just trying to understand every facet of this art, I kind of come full circle, and with no real tangible answers at the end of decades of searching, it's like, what, it don't even matter. What we have is these movements and these kata, that's all we have. Certain training drills, which again came a little bit further down the line in a lot of cases, and their validity we can kind of argue about. We can force it to fit and force it to be relevant, but often they're kind of kids' games. So really all we have is the kata. So for me at this point in my training, it's about, well, how can I find use for these things that I've spent so many years and repetition doing? How can I find value in them? And for me, the value of them as shown, it's revealed themselves in the uncontrolled sparring, within the Muay Thai, within the MMA, within the clinch work and that kind of thing, whereby I can find so many circumstances of how these things work when stripped bare of their, not non-essentials, but stripped bare of the trappings that kind of make it karate, when really it's just movement. So if we become students of movement, if we become professors of movement and efficiency of movement and power generation and how to exploit these things in somebody else, then we can find value in that, what we have. But I think looking backwards all the time, trying to find answers, ultimately you're going to be met with a little bit of a brick wall and a dead end. Okay, but that's just some of my thoughts on it. If you want some videos, I can put some videos together of what the Kakidameshi look like with the belts and the sticks. I can show you. The Hokkama did show me what they look like, so I can show you guys if it's something you're interested in. But I'll be honest with you, there's there's not a lot of use for them. They're kind of good for kids games, a bit of fun or whatever. But with regard to actual relevance, it's a fun bit of history, and that's about it. Okay, but anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. I'll sign off there, guys, and I will get back to the next questions in the next video.